One airplane, 239 people, and traces that vanished completely in a single night. But how is it possible that in the modern world, a massive passenger aircraft can seemingly disappear into thin air, leaving almost nothing behind? On the night of March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777-200ER, operated by Malaysia Airlines, took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, heading toward Beijing. The flight number was MH370. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah, was highly experienced, with thousands of flight hours, and this route was routine for him. Inside the cabin, life went on as usual. Some passengers watched movies, some slept, others simply stared out into the dark sky. No one knew this flight would become history, not because of what happened, but because it vanished without a trace. The aircraft cruised steadily at 35,000 feet. The weather was clear, and there were no signs of danger. In the final radio transmission, the co-pilot calmly said, "Good night, Malaysian 370. It sounded like a routine sign-off, but in reality, those were the last words ever heard from the aircraft. Just minutes later, the transponder went silent. This device is one of the most critical systems, transmitting the aircraft's identity and location to civilian radar. Its disappearance was no coincidence. It pointed either to a serious technical failure or deliberate interference. MH370 vanished from civilian radar screens. But that wasn't the end of it. Military radar later revealed that the aircraft had turned back, crossing over the Malaysian peninsula. This maneuver was precise and controlled, as if someone was deliberately guiding the plane somewhere else. It continued over the Andaman Sea, heading west, before turning south again. This was no random flight path. It was a movement designed to conceal its direction.
Even more unsettling, the aircraft continued flying for hours. There was no radio contact, no response, yet satellite systems received periodic handshake signals roughly every hour. These signals confirmed that the aircraft was still airborne. But where? No one could answer that. Based on engine performance data, MH370 may have flown for nearly 7 more hours. That meant it was heading toward one of the most remote and least monitored regions on Earth, the southern Indian Ocean. At this point, it was no longer a simple disappearance. It began to look like a deliberate act designed to leave no trace behind. One of the largest search operations in history was launched. Dozens of countries, hundreds of ships and aircraft, thousands of people, all searching for one answer. Where is MH370? Using satellite data, investigators mapped a possible route known as the Southern Corridor, stretching deep into the Indian Ocean. This region is one of the most isolated places on Earth, vast, deep, and extremely difficult to search. Sonar systems scanned the ocean floor, advanced underwater drones were deployed, every possible lead was investigated, but nothing was found. It was as if the aircraft hadn't crashed into the ocean, but simply disappeared.
Months passed. Hope began to fade, but the search continued. In 2015, a piece of wing debris washed ashore on Reunion Island. It was later confirmed to belong to MH370. Additional fragments were found along the coasts of Mozambique, Tanzania, and Madagascar. Ocean currents had carried them thousands of kilometers. These findings confirmed one thing: the aircraft had indeed crashed into the ocean. But the most important question remained unanswered. Why? As the investigation went on, multiple theories emerged. Some believed it was a deliberate act by the pilot. Others suggested a catastrophic technical failure, such as cabin depressurization, causing the crew to lose consciousness while the aircraft continued on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. There were also theories of hijacking or even secret military involvement. But none of these explanations fully accounted for all the evidence. Why did communication suddenly stop? Why did the aircraft change direction? Why was no distress signal ever sent? And most importantly, how could such an advanced aircraft, in an era of modern radar and satellite technology, simply vanish without a trace?
But perhaps the most painful part of this story isn't technical, it's human. Families waiting at airports, people who refuse to lose hope for years, parents clinging to every new piece of news, hoping maybe this time. Some families still believe their loved ones might be alive somewhere. That hope may be impossible, but for humans, hope is always the last thing to fade. MH370 is not just an aircraft. It is 239 unfinished lives. To this day, the disappearance of MH370 has never been fully explained. Reports have been published, theories debated, but no definitive answer exists. And perhaps the most terrifying part is this. Even in the most technologically advanced era, a massive aircraft can simply vanish. No clear trace, no final answer, only questions. And with each passing year, those questions grow heavier. Maybe it was just an accident, maybe something more deliberate. But one thing is certain. MH370 remains one of the greatest and most haunting aviation mysteries in history. And perhaps the most unsettling thought of all is this. Sometimes the truth exists somewhere, but we may never reach it. If you enjoy real and unbelievable stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the Ball channel and like the video.